Hello, everyone. Welcome to Celsius 233, your go-to place for fiction book summaries. Today, we will step into the world of Roughing It by Mark Twain. Roughing It is a humorous, semi-autobiographical account by Mark Twain that chronicles his journey west with his brother during the time of the Nevada Silver Rush. Written in 1872, it describes Twain's adventures and misadventures as he traverses the American frontier, working as a prospector, reporter, and lecturer. The book captures the rough life of the West, blending first-hand experiences with satire and exaggeration. Plot summary. The journey began with high hopes and the irresistible lure of the West. His brother, recently appointed Secretary of Nevada Territory, had invited him along on what Twain imagined would be a grand adventure. The West, with its shimmering promises of silver and fortune, beckoned. Twain, young and filled with wanderlust, couldn't resist the opportunity. He dreamed of seeing buffalo, Indians, prairie dogs, and perhaps even striking it rich himself. He believed that a life of excitement and wealth awaited him beyond the horizon. The brothers embarked on their journey from Missouri, crossing the vast plains toward Nevada. The early days aboard a stagecoach were marked by tedium and discomfort. Twain, not yet seasoned to the West, found himself wrestling with the heat, dust, and endless expanse of grasslands. The monotony was broken only by stops at stage stations and encounters with fellow travelers, most notably George Bemis, a hapless man armed with an unreliable Allen revolver. Bemis became a constant source of amusement, his over-the-top bravado masking a tendency for absurd accidents, like mistakenly shooting a mule instead of a target. The vast open spaces of the Great Plains gave way to the treacherous Sierra Nevada mountains. Twain's romantic visions of the West collided with harsh realities. The journey was long, the nights cold, and the terrain unforgiving. The occasional beauty of the landscape, the rolling hills, vast deserts, and sagebrush, was often overshadowed by the hardships of travel. Yet, despite these challenges, Twain's humor remained intact, finding joy in the quirks of his companions and the absurdities of frontier life. In Nevada, the mining towns bustled with activity. Twain entered this world with enthusiasm, convinced that silver would soon fill his pockets. He tried his hand at prospecting, chasing after every rumor of a new find, following miners up into the barren hills where fortunes were said to be hidden beneath the earth. However, success eluded him. The mines were not the treasure troves he had imagined, and silver nuggets did not simply present themselves on the ground. Instead, he found only hard labor and bitter disappointment. Twain's misadventures continued as he sought out different ways to make a living in this unpredictable land. His attempt at mining eventually gave way to a brief stint in timber, cutting trees for income, but again, success was hard to come by. He realized that the frontier life was less about instant riches and more about survival in an unforgiving environment. The West was not a place where fortunes fell into one's lap. It was a place where men worked themselves to exhaustion for little reward. Despite these struggles, Twain remained fascinated by the characters he met along the way. The West was teeming with larger-than-life personalities, bold prospectors, gamblers, and seasoned frontiersmen who had learned to navigate its challenges. Twain watched them, learned from them, and occasionally laughed at their follies, while fully aware that he shared in those very same missteps. Eventually, Twain landed a job as a reporter for the Virginia City newspaper, the Territorial Enterprise. This position allowed him to explore more of the West, encountering saloons, stagecoach drivers, and even political corruption. As a journalist, he uncovered stories both strange and comical, the sorts of tales that could only exist in the frontier's chaotic setting. In this world of rough miners and desperate men, Twain's wit and sharp tongue flourished. He learned to embellish the truth, crafting humorous reports that often straddled the line between fact and fiction, entertaining readers while also offering them insight into the wildness of life in Nevada. The West had its moments of excitement, but it was also fraught with danger. Twain witnessed shootings, feuds, and the lawlessness that pervaded mining camps. The nights were filled with the echo of gunshots, and violence was never far away. Yet, even in this harsh environment, Twain's resilience grew. He faced his failures with humor, realizing that perhaps the wealth he sought wasn't hidden in silver mines, but rather in the experiences and stories he collected along the way. One of Twain's more bizarre adventures involved a brief trip to Salt Lake City, where he observed the Mormon community. Curious about their customs and beliefs, Twain approached their world with both skepticism and fascination. He met Brigham Young, the famous leader of the Mormon Church, and was struck by the stark difference between the structured life of the Mormons and the chaotic frontier towns he had become accustomed to. His observations of the Mormon way of life were tinged with both humor and a sense of wonder at their ability to carve out a peaceful existence in the middle of a harsh desert. After years of struggle in the West, Twain eventually found his way to San Francisco, where he continued his work as a writer and reporter. The city by the bay was a bustling metropolis compared to the mining camps he had left behind, yet it still bore the hallmarks of a wild frontier. Twain's wit and observations found a receptive audience here, and he began to make a name for himself as a humorist. His adventures, once marked by the pursuit of wealth, now shifted toward storytelling, and it was in San Francisco that he began to refine his craft as a writer. As Twain looked back on his time in the West, he saw a place both magnificent and flawed. The frontier was full of promise, yet few found the wealth they sought. Twain's fortune had not come in the form of silver or gold, but in the richness of his experiences. The West, with all its eccentricities and hardships, had shaped him, teaching him lessons about perseverance, humility, and the importance of laughter in the face of adversity. In the end, Twain's time roughing it in the West was not what he had expected, but it was far more valuable. The tales he gathered, the people he met, and the resilience he developed would stay with him for the rest of his life, transforming him from a naive adventurer into a master storyteller. That's all for now, but if this book spoke to you, Mark Twain has more waiting for you. Find them in the description or on Celsius 233. Remember, while our summaries capture the essence, they can never replace the full experience of reading the book. If this summary intrigued you, consider diving into the complete story, buy the book, and immerse yourself in Mark Twain's original work. Bye-bye, take care, have fun.